Let's talk to Ryan Savey, Deputy Political Editor at The Sun. Ryan, a very good morning to you. I'm sure we'll talk to you, I'm sure, about the massive matters of state arising from the disability benefits rules that are coming in shortly, and also on Ed Miliband and his net zero commitment and what Kemi Badenoch's been saying. But we should really mention potholes are a massive story in this country. Page 17 of The Sun today, Ryan. It's going to take £17 billion and 12 years to fix them all. I mean, these are the kinds of things that really grind people's gears, aren't they?
Totally. If you spend more than sort of 3 or 4 minutes with a politician, you'll get through the niceties and you'll talk to them about what's really winding up their constituents and the people they represent. And lo and behold, what will always come up is potholes. This is a thing that MPs get a lot of mail about, and it's a bugbear of them. They encounter it every single day. Their cars are being damaged by potholes every single day, and that's why it's been fixed. And we've had so many times we've had government saying they're going to fix it, but every single time you drive down your road, those potholes are still there. And I'm reading the report today that these roads should are not being repaired every 93 years. It's terrible.
I know, it's really amazing. And you know what was really a good insight into what I would call the Westminster bubble was last Thursday night when I watched BBC's Question Time. Fiona Bruce kind of was very apologetic right at the end. She said, right, the final question, she says, we get these questions all the time, but we never usually do them. And incredibly, she said, I apologise because there are many more serious things going on. And she then introduced a guy who asked a question about potholes. And, you know, you could see the collective squirming on the panel of all the people who were there, all the MPs who kind of were like, oh, this is a bit grubby. Oh, this is a bit kind of, you know, low rent. Why are we talking about this? Can't we talk about, you know, international aid and Ukraine and all the really important matters of state? They don't get it, do they? They don't understand that actually this is the bread and butter of what people care about. And they said, and actually one of the MPs, I think it was the Labour Party cabinet minister, said, oh, do you know, it's true, whenever I go out on the doorstep, you know, this is what the kind of thing that people say. But it was really revelatory to me. This is how people who live in that Westminster bubble world think.
Yeah, sometimes there's a huge disconnect between MPs and the voters, or issues don't get the airtime that it deserves. But one thing to remember about every time a driver gets hit by, or they go into a pothole and their car gets damaged, it costs them hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
Yes.
And that's the kind of thing that winds up voters, and it turns them off politicians, and they start thinking about voting for someone else. Rishi Sunak tried to divert a lot of money from HS2 into potholes. We've seen some of that come through. Rachel Reeves has talked about £1 billion more to fund these to fill these potholes. But I think that the trouble is, every time you go driving, you still see these potholes in the roads, and that's the thing that winds everyone up.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's talk about another great Sun campaign, which is all about how the government squanders your money, with a great piece by Harry Cole this morning about the Brit-hating punk rock singers who are called, can't remember what they're called, can't see it. Phoebe Lunny and Lily McCleary, who apparently spend most of their time saying that Britain is a horrible place, shouldn't really be visited. They basically say that it is one of the worst countries in the entire world, but they were in receipt of part of a £1.6 million grant from government. It's a bit like the USAID, this, isn't it? Where you get paid to tell everybody not to bother coming to Britain.
Yeah, no, it's extraordinary. There's £1.6 million of money going to British bands to help them tour, and it just shows you that, has anyone actually done any checks on any of these bands to actually see what they stand for?
Yeah.
And I think the first thing, if you read any of the lyrics of this band, it brings it into question. Some people may call it art. Other people will be extremely, extremely upset that taxpayers' money is going to this. But there's also, I noticed in the report, there's a big band called Blossoms. They've had big hits, and they're in receipt of some of this money as well. So this sort of money should be used for new bands to encourage them, rather than going to bands that are either established or extreme. You know, there's no issue with art, but when they're extremely controversial and being anti-British, do we really want to be giving them the money?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, people have said, well, what's wrong with them being anti-British? Well, there's nothing wrong with it. If they want to have that view, they're called the Lambrini girls, by the way. But you shouldn't be giving them government money. Lisa Nandy, apparently, the culture minister, has come out and said that they're the best of British culture.
I just don't. I can just see what's happened in Whitehall. Someone's applied for some money. It's been given out, and absolutely, well, very little due diligence has actually been given. I very much doubt whether someone sat there in Whitehall in recent weeks has gone through their back catalogue and said, well, let's go through the lyrics and see if there's anything controversial. Perhaps that needs to be stepped up a little bit and improved.
Yeah, indeed. And the other story on the spread is government waste Mark III. Almost 20,000 government credit cards were frozen last night amid rocketing spending by mandarins. Holders of procurement cards, which allow civil service to spend money without ministers giving their permission, is absolutely off the scale. Spending has soared apparently 300% in the last 4 years, topping 675 million quid. I mean, this is unreal. I mean, if somebody gave you a credit card to work for, to help you do your job here in the Sun, you would have pretty strict, I would say, limits on what you could spend. These people are spending £2,493 at a shoe shop in Barbados, right? £965 racked up at a bowling club in Toronto. And apparently Pat McFadden has declared that, we're going to put a stop to this. Well, how is it possible they've even started it? 675 million quid.
This is one of these ideas, one of these schemes in Whitehall that's just got totally out of hand. I did a story just the other week that civil servants spent over £1,000 on the Nespresso coffee pods. You know, these things are just sort of getting out of control. Now, I think, speaking to people in government yesterday, what they don't want to try and do is try and crack down on people who are in a war zone. That's not the idea. The idea is on the waste and actually making sure there is a chain of command, a line of command. So if you are using one of these, you actually do have the appropriate sign off. But some of those examples are horrendous, and you can just see how it's got out of control, and someone like Pat McFadden has got in there in recent months and thought this has to end. Yeah,
absolutely right. Let's talk about the big story of the week, which is the benefits business, right? Liz Kendall's getting up, I think, later on this afternoon to talk about how she's going to try and wipe billions off the benefits bill. What do you think she's going to say? She's already facing a backlash from her own Labour Party MP backbenchers, some maybe in the cabinet as well. And Angela Rayner can't be in favour of it. What do you think she's going to say?
I think one thing they'll be definitely looking at is the PIP payments, the personal independence payments.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that they'll be trying to do is, obviously there's been a lot of backtrack on this policy. It looked like there was going to be a freeze. It looks like that now will go up with inflation. But I think one thing they'll be very, very keen to do, and we'll get an announcement on this afternoon, is look at that eligibility criteria to make sure that if you are receiving those extra payments, you actually do need it. And I think that has been the big problem while this benefits bill has just ballooned out of control. But if this is the big idea and they're only going to save £5 billion, it does make you wonder, when the legislation comes through, expect it in May, whether there may be even more watering down because of that rebellion, that revolt, that unease within the Labour ranks. This is meant to be the big thing. And to my eyes, it's not saving a massive amount. And there was a few squeals of anger from Labour MPs, and it seems to have put the jitters up number 10 and across Whitehall a little bit. So if they want to save some big money, they may need to look a little bit harder.
Right, and we're just watching the front door of Downing Street, number 10 there, because there's some a meeting going on. The cabinet ministers are turning up to arrive to see Keir Starmer. I don't think there's any kind of reshuffle going on. I presume this is just business as usual. Let's talk a bit about Jürgen, my favourite former German and sort of CEO of Siemens, who now runs GB Energy. He made a little statement yesterday because apparently he had a meeting. Have a look.
Great British Energy stems from one very simple idea, that British people should have a right to own and benefit from our own natural energy resources. This is why Great British Energy is 100% owned by the British people, for the British people. Our goal is to help communities and bill payers reap the benefits of clean, secure, homegrown energy. Our journey to energy security, clean power, and net zero is truly on path, and we at Great British Energy are here to accelerate that exciting journey.
An exciting journey. It's on path. That porn music in the background, by the way, Ryan, we've been reminding people that they should put in a couple of ideas. Here's one from Burnside who says, how about Jurgen's heat pump? Yeah, that could work. What's he talking about?
Yeah, well, I think the most interesting thing there is he's in charge of GB Energy, which is based up in Aberdeen.
Yes.
It looks like he's speaking from an office in London there. So.
Well, they don't have an office in Aberdeen. They don't have any premises that are actually specifically made out to GB Energy. They don't have any energy to sell. They don't buy any energy. They don't appear to have a website. They don't appear to have any employees. Jurgen seems to be it, basically.
Yeah, and I think he was under a lot of criticism recently, I think, over actually bringing down bills and how many jobs GB Energy will actually create. So I think GB Energy is very much in its infancy, but as
it's been
the
in its infancy for a while.
It has, and I think as the government tries to push towards net zero, it doesn't really feel like it's taking the public with it. And obviously we've got Kemi Badenoch making a big speech on the subject today.
Well, yeah, I mean, is there any point to that? Because we were talking earlier, Bob Seeley was in this morning, former Tory MP for the Isle of Wight, and he was saying that, you know, this is a great step in the right direction for Kemi. But a poll this week which showed that basically only 6 constituencies thought that Kemi Badenoch would be worth having as a Prime Minister made pretty sobering reading for them, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of disquiet amongst Tory ranks that they appreciate that she has only been in post for 5 months or so, but it feels like there needs to be a little bit more meat on the bone. There needs to be a little bit more policy. Now, she's trying to set out her views on net zero, but at a time where just a few weeks ago you had reform setting out there, big policies on net zero, Kemi Badenoch is just coming up with language, criticising her predecessors on net zero, saying that they sort of took the public down the garden path on the targets, and saying it's an impossible. The actual 2050 target is actually just impossible. So I think you'll get some language from Kemi Badenoch today, but it just feels like the policy is going to come down the road a little bit later. This is a big policy review. Renewal moment for Kemi, but has she got the time as Tory leader to actually fulfil those promises and actually deliver those policies before it's too late and the wagons are circling around her leadership?
Yeah, absolutely right. Good to talk to you, Ryan Sabey. Thank you very much indeed, Deputy Political Editor at The Sun.